It's been a while since I've done a table talk quick hit type of video, but I'm playing Sea Evil right now, and I'm sure I'm not going to do an actual video on this game because no doubt I am playing it incorrectly. First of all, it's not a solo game, and second of all, no doubt I'm playing it incorrectly, but I did want to just do a quick talk about it and mention that in a experience of a very quote unquote simple situation, which is that you are sailing this ship and trying to get to this lighthouse here. What the designers have achieved is something that really feels like you're playing out a scene or scenes in a role playing game. That you have your 10 crew members here with various actions that they can do, including moving and attacking and dropping things and switching weapons and moving up and down between the main level of the boat and the galley and up to the mast area. They can also, if the boat, as this is about to happen, this is a kraken that is about to attack the side of the boat. If it caused a hole there, they could, in attempt to plug the hole before the boat flooded. They can also go down to the lower level and have a bit of rum and regain some composure, regain a stat. They have some just basic stats: speed, strength, and will to live, which is essentially something that can be used up to add on to a stat as you wish. It really gives the feeling of a role-playing game, that the characters have different special abilities and you are envisioning these guys on this ship scrambling around trying to make a determination about what they're going to do. So right now the scenario is that this is a giant whale that is about to ram into the boat. There's kraken is here. Let me go through the actions on this one turn to show you what I mean. It is raining here out at sea, which means that our movement is going to be compromised, and if we're on the deck, it's going to be compromised. However, we are going to have a defense against a creature grabbing stuff from us, and indeed, just in the last turn, crawling up onto our deck is Seaweed Man, and Seaweed Man does grab items before close combat. Seaweed Man came up the back here and is deciding to focus on these two characters. They have some great items that I don't want taken. So that is one scenario that we have to think about defending against. However, the other thing that happened was this tentacle from this kraken crawled up on the ship and attempted to attack the captain here. The captain defended against that attack, but we have to be mindful of that that's going on. The last thing that happened was we've got this giant whale here that had been attempting to batter the ship, but we've had that since the beginning of the game, and we have this old pissed off whale. It is not going to be able to do a successful hole or attack against the side of the ship. We've had one that we've repaired already, so it has backed off. In terms of our overall situation with the lighthouse here, we're pretty close to the lighthouse because we've had some favorable wind and we've been able to adjust the boat to catch the wind. However, we're really far off course from the lighthouse. So we are all the way east of the lighthouse, even though we're pretty close to it. So we really have to be thinking about steering this ship. So in this turn, those are some of the issues that we are facing and the decisions that we have to make. Now, down below, we have, this is the below decks, and we've got Hamish, the first mate, down here. And I want him to come up and be able to steer the boat to add some bonus to the steering roll, because I do really want to be able to turn this thing. However, his speed is 5, and he's got to come 1, 2. He's got to come up here, 3. He has to avoid Seaweed Man because he doesn't want to fight him for 5 to get to the steering wheel. But due to the rain, he's going to be -1 on his speed. So to get Hamish up here, he's going to have to use one of his will to live. This is a stat that you can use to add to other stats or re-roll a die. So we're going to muster all his energy from down below here and come up, as I indicated, and put Hamish onto the steering of the ship. So I use these things to indicate this is an indication of the fact that they've done their movement. They can move and do one action. He's going to do steering, but not possibly just yet. So I need to remember that, which is why the green indicates the action. Why isn't he going to do steering yet? Well, to get the bonus, I want to get as maximum bonus on steering as I can possibly get. And to do that, I have to have, or I could have these masts manned with 2 men to get an additional bonus to my roll, and I'll show you how that works when we get to it. We've got this mast already manned from just before. This one, however, is not. We have possibilities of some characters here that could step over and man the mast, but I really want to get rid of this. Kraken's been bothering me since the beginning of the game. I would like to do a ranged flank attack, I think, to then possibly also get rid of its head its tentacles, because when you do damage, you could sort of do across the board damage to both counters if it is an enemy with 2 counters. So the Kraken has 2 counters and the whale has 2 counters. You can really only attack the head or the tail, but it's represented in that manner. And unfortunately, when I was playing this game, these 2 things came up first. So I've got the Kraken and its tentacles up here. The tentacles can move 5. They can really move around. But I also have Seaweed Man. A ranged flank attack, you can't be stacked at all. Usually there's a stacking limit of 2. So either Wong or Little Jeb, I think, is going to attempt an attack on Seaweed Man. But Seaweed Man is pretty strong. He doesn't have any weapons yet, although he does try to grab them, but he has a strength of 15. Now, it says before close combat can grab items from enemies. I guess that would be, we don't really want to do close combat with him and risk a grab. So, Little Jeb, let's see, he's got a speed. Maybe Little Jeb and Wong should actually man this mast, and I should bring in somebody else to do a combat here. I think that's the way to go. So Wong has a speed of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. He can just get there using a will to live because the speed's only going to count as 3. So his will to live now is down to 2. And so let's mark his movement. And Little Jeb here, he has a speed of 7, so he can get to this mast in the rain, no problem. So I'm fully manned here for a steering roll. So let's indicate that. And now we're going to line up to do an attack. And we're going to line up to do this flank attack. Jebediah here, he's got a spear hook. He can get to so his spear hook is going to add 3 plus his strength, which is 7. So that's going to be a plus 10 to the spear hook attack. And Fiery Path here, he could toss his tomahawk, and that's going to be a 4 plus his 6 strength plus a 2. That's going to be a lot, but he'll lose that. Actually, stepping back, I forgot. These guys all have harpoons. Now, harpoons are available on the ship, so they don't each have a card for it, but these guys all have harpoons, and I think that's probably the way to go. So, because I don't want to lose this spear hook. So for Jebediah, he's going to be 1 away, so the harpoon's going to give us plus 7, plus his strength is a 14. Big Jeb is going to come down. He's going to be an additional hex away, so if that's 1 hex away, that's going to be 2 hexes away. So the harpoon is going to give, take a look here more closely. This is adjacent, 1 hex away, 2 hex away, so he's going to get a 5 plus his strength. And the strength on Big Jeb is 8. He's going to be a plus 13. And we can bring in Fiery Path, who also has a harpoon. He can move in 1, and he's going to be 1, 2, 3 away. So that's going to be +3 plus his strength. That's going to be a +9. So the 3 of them can throw their harpoons at this Kraken. Now the captain is here. He could, even though the tentacles are on him, I think he could still participate in this attack. He could also try to move, and that's what I'm going to have him. Or, however, he can also attempt to shoot his revolver at this Seaweed Man from 1 hex away with a +10 value, and I think that's what I'm going to have him do. So the captain has this revolver here, and I believe per the rules, he does not need to attack even though he is being attacked. I'm basing it on this. If beginning their movement on the same hex as enemies, a character can move away from enemy without attacking. Well, I don't really want to move away, but I guess I could move away around here and attack. Anyway, I'm not having the captain participate. This is going to be the flank attack, and it's going to be rolling at a +14, +13, +9 at a +36. So the way this works is we're going to roll 2 d6s. We are the white d6, which happily is thematic, and the enemy is the red. We will be adding any relevant modifiers, and for the Kraken, this means that the head is adding a +15. So we're going to do a +36, and it's going to do a +15, and then if we succeed in that, if we are greater than that, that is the damage that will be taken. So we're going to give it a roll. Oh, wow. Okay, well, this gives you, this is great. The 2 things happen here. First of all, if you roll a 6, as we did, it automatically turns into a 12. So that is going to be a 36 plus a 12, which is a 48. So effectively, we rolled a 48. That is a rule from the game. As you can see here, rolling a natural d6, you get an additional +6 always added to the result. 1 is a bad roll. 1 is, first of all, it is added to the Kraken's value here of 15, so that's a 16, and we determine the damage at that point. So 48 minus 16 is going to be 32. So we're going to take this Kraken's a goner anyway, because he doesn't have 32 left. We would be taking values off of both of the counters, but as you can see, we have only a total of 22 left, so those come off. Well, actually, I spoke too soon. He's not a goner because he's still got his will to live. So what we're going to do is, I don't know whether we need to take it off all of these. I hadn't been taking it off will to live. I'm going to, let's see, or excuse me, will to kill, it's called here. So I'm taking a total of 32 off. We're going to bring this down to 0. And then we're going to take 7 off of here. And then that's going to bring 10, it's going to bring its will to kill down to 10. I think that's correct. So the Kraken is greatly weakened. The tentacles themselves have been brought down to 0. So I think they're going to recede back to the body. And they're sort of still there because he's clinging on with his will, again, sorry, will to kill. So we didn't quite get rid of it, but it's greatly weakened. So the crew has risen up with their harpoons and gravely wounded this. The rain's pouring down. The Kraken is bloody in the water. However, we still have this Seaweed Man here. And Seaweed Man, before close combat, he grabs at stuff. So he has like crawled up onto our ship in the rain, dripping with water, and he had set his eyes on the 2 guys that were standing here. The captain, however, sees him. Captain Burke sees him, and he is going to try to dispense with him by shooting him with his revolver. but he's not going to go onto this hex. He's going to walk around. He's got a speed of 5. In the rain, that brings us down to 4. He can cross over a hex with a friendly counter, and also, I'm pretty sure, this boat. So he's going to go around Seaweed Man 1, 2, 3 to the other side here, and then he's going to fire off his revolver in adjacent position. That's going to give a +10 plus his, well, no strength, so he's going to get a +10 on that. Now, Seaweed Man has a +15 strength, so Seaweed Man, who's totally uninjured, is pretty strong here. So we're still at a deficit. I don't have a ton more options unless I get the help of someone on the mast. And the reason that I don't want to do that is I really want to steer this. Well, maybe it doesn't matter. So let me explain my thought process here. I want to be able to turn this ship, at least I want to get a successful turn of 1. I've got to get headed back north to the lighthouse. I've got someone on the steering, so that's going to give me a +1 for that to my D6 roll. And I will get a +1 for every 2 people on the mast, so this could be another +1. If I take this guy off to help me fight, I won't get anything. I'll just get a +2 to a D6 roll. I have to roll a minimum of 3 to get the one direction shift. This is an indication of the direction of the wind, and it's giving us a +3 right now to both, I guess it's to both the movement and the steering, because we can see here, I've made these up into cards, but it says you get a +1 or 2 for manned mast, +1 for the wheel, and it does say plus or minus for the wind direction. Now, the rain is not indicating anything against the wind, so I'm getting a +3. So actually, it doesn't really matter about that because it's going to be pretty much an automatic turn given the way I am with the wind. So what we're going to do is we are going to have now Hamish, the first mate, take his action to steer the ship, and as indicated with the plus, we get a +1. And even though these guys are on the mast, I'm not going to count this as action, and I'll explain why in a minute, because it has to do with this. It has to do with this whale. So we're just going to take the +1 because I think we rolled a 3 anyway, so it didn't matter. So we just took the +1. We are going to be able to successfully move this ship. So what's going to happen is we're going to move this ship, and it's going to move like this. I guess we're not going to hit this Kraken. The Kraken's just going to end up there in relation to us. But this shows why I did not want to have these guys contribute to the movement, because they can potentially now try to be close enough to this whalehead. They haven't done anything yet. So little Jeb here he's got a harpoon, and so he can step here 1, and let's see, he's going to be 1, 2, 3. He's going to be 4 away from the whale. 1, 2, 3. That's going to give him a +7 to any kind of attack. And joined in this attack can be Conrad. He's also got a harpoon. So let's see, he's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. He's a 5 away. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that's out of range. So he's going to be out of range. We're looking here at the end game conditions of a game of Sea Evil that I think I won, not by getting to the lighthouse, because when I'm at the shore, I'm off course of the lighthouse here, but by killing the Sea Witch who was flying in front of our boat in a pouring rain, driving us back, allowing us a maximum of 1 movement a turn, and that was fully staffed, which we didn't even have the opportunity to do, while the sea people were quickly going to be gaining on us and ultimately boarding our ship and getting rid of us. But because of this rule that says, if I'm reading it correctly here and reflecting the kind of crazy imbalance of this game, it says, if killed, evil vanishes and the whalers survive. And we were just able to do that as the men below were consumed by this giant crab, and as I can't even remember who this was, fell to the blood plankton. It was getting desperate, and it had been raining for days without a hope of clear weather. I say I think we won because the games, I haven't played this game too many times, and as you could see from the other portions of this video where I tried to show a turn, some of the rules are ambiguous and confusing, and in some cases just totally absent in terms of details of things that happen. Does this impact the enjoyment of the game? Not for me. This is an exciting narrative theme-based game where everything that is happening seems to make sense, even in all its craziness. And I'm discussing this game, I'm presenting this game on the channel because I think it successfully creates, again, as I said at the outset, with a very quote-unquote simple idea that you're in a ship, you're a ship full of whalers trying to get to the lighthouse, period, that's it, and stuff is coming up out of the sea to try to stop you. It creates a story, it creates a feeling, it creates emotion, tension, and memory. And that when I stopped playing the game for the evening and went to bed and woke up, I was thinking about the game. I was wondering what was going to happen. I felt for the men that were imperiled. I felt for this little kid who was, for a time, actually still was, down here in the hold, about to be eaten by this giant crab. The game ended before he did get eaten, so I was happy about that. But the fact that a game with these little paper Xerox components, and I actually like the art and I like the chits, but the production, one could argue, it's a magazine game, so that's what the production is. Although I would say that the counters are very nice and thick, and I think the counters are really well done. That said, the fact that a game in this essentially pamphlet version can create such a feeling with relatively few components, without all sorts of tons of big box expansions and new cards and new things, is a testament to the game design and the intent of the designer to make a game that has a certain feeling. It's brilliantly done. I highly recommend this game. Again, it is not solo, so you have to do some house ruling on when to bring in, not just when to bring in evil, but certain mechanisms of evil, and I'm not really sure that I fully figured out the best way to do a pretty key component, which is the once-in-a-game abilities that both evil and the whalers get that, for example, prevent the ship from moving. Now, I did do that at one point that seemed like it would be the worst possible time, but there are other times where I'm thinking about a way to maybe randomize this. I don't know. It is challenging to completely play with the rules as written for evil, but it's the kind of game I think that can accept this potential just house ruling, or scrappy ruling is what I would call it, like on the fly ruling. The other thing that I did was I made these little cards here that reproduce the rules that are here on the map facing this way. That is just, at least from my play space, would be very hard to keep referring to, and I couldn't play this game with the map orientation vertical. So I reproduced them on cards so that I could use them. But that aside, those are the modifications that I made, and I just played it as best I could, both sides, and when it was evil's turn, evil did the worst possible thing. I didn't draw the two evil chits each time. I simply drew one and placed it out. So evil brought in something new every turn with whatever it was. So there was no decision making on that. It was whatever came out of the cup. And it worked. It worked. And in fact, to my dismay, initially I drew in both. The first thing was the whale, and the second thing was the kraken, which are two multi-chit enemies that were very hard to deal with. This whale is badly wounded, but he's still alive. The Kraken was dispensed with. Luckily, the sea people, the four sea people on their boat, didn't come until the very end of the game. Had that appeared earlier, I think I would have been a goner earlier. So that's a look inside Sea Evil. I have utterly enjoyed playing it, and I'm gonna go back at it right now as I end this video to try again.